My system right now is really acting very slow. All right, 23.75 was our open. Our opening swing low was 22.75. Wow, this is slow. Our opening swing high right now is 25.75. And that's yesterday's high, 23.50. So based on this information, price opened just outside of yesterday's range. What I'm automatically looking for in the print and in the context is this market going to further accept price outside of this range, or is it going to come back into yesterday's range? And if it does, is the move into yesterday's range just going to be a test, or is it an actual move where it starts building volume? And in order to do that, in order to determine that, I use the intraday volume profile chart to start looking at the volume as it moves lower, to determine if it's acceptance or just a test. If the volume remains very thin to the downside and we pop back above 23.50 and we're growing volume, I'll bring up a chart here in a minute. That tells me we're getting acceptance outside of yesterday's range, and acceptance, with acceptance, I would look for further price movement in that direction. So that's our opening swing for the morning, 22.75. And hang on a second. And actually, I'm gonna bring this down to 24.50. The reason is because I could see buyers really trying to get through 24.50. Sellers were able to bring this back down through the open, and then there was a second swing high. Price came back down below it. So what I'm watching for right now is, this tells me we have both active buyers and sellers in this market. And what I'm looking for now is what is going to be the extent of the seller's conviction below 22.75. Relative to the neutral auction, those were price moved down, and I'll just take a moment to go through this. When I talked about neutral auction, is the reason is because, again, I'm using the VCA. I apologize, my system is very slow this morning, so I'm having trouble moving even my charts between my monitors. Price was moving down, so it looks like a negative auction. But as volume was coming into this market, the overall auction relative to activity at the bid and the ask was neutral. So that's what I was looking at. I was looking at simply the VCA analysis. Don't believe I still have Draghi up. Something is dragging on my system right now and causing this to be very slow, so I apologize for that. All right. Get into the homework here. Yeah, and important distinction for me, if I see neutrality in the VCAs, right? When I see neutrality in the VCAs, neutrality in a normal auction would tell me something might be changing. We see neutral auctions at the point where something is changing. So at the edges of a volume profile, if I see, let's say prices moving up, and then I see one or two bars that have a neutral auction, or meaning those bars, the VCA shows me a neutral auction, then it automatically, if I see a finish or I see participants tapering, volumes coming out of the market, automatically triggers to start watching for downside activity. And vice versa, if I have a finish to the downside, auction has been auctioning nicely to the downside, I get some bars that are neutral. The volume cluster analysis is telling me that it's neutral. I'm starting to look for evidence of further seller seller stepping away, more buyer conviction, more conviction at the offer, and starting to see if I in fact get that, if I have a long opportunity, and then once I get the weakness at the bid and strength again at the offer, I would look to take that trade, especially if it's in an area that's I've already planned to make a trade in. All right, let me get back to this. I need to find what is, when I take the break, I'm going to take a look at my system and see if I can find what's bogging it down right now. I will say that I have a lot of charts open, and there was a pretty hefty amount of volume so far in this open today, and I'm painting a lot of charts, so we'll see. And just real quickly, this is the overnight auction. This is the overnight profile. Fact. And this is yesterday's profile. So there's a low volume area right around here, 2050. The close was back down around 1475. So if we start seeing price move much lower, especially around then 1825, where this came down, we're likely going to see settlement. Likely going to go see that close. So I would be looking at those low volume areas from yesterday, and a low volume area from the previous days, and we're going to go through this. You can have a low volume area, but if price isn't respecting that low volume area, just don't give it as much. You don't give it as much weight. Okay. So the second if then, if price moves up or down. So first one is, where's price open relative to yesterday's activity? Second is, does price move up or down, or both? Actually, that should say or both. And this is where you're looking for a potential trade initially in the morning at specific key levels. So if we had significant acceptance outside of, let's say we were 2 to 3 points above yesterday's open instead of one tick, above yesterday's range, and price started moving lower, back down to previous day's range, previous day's high of day. Previous day's high of day is my first reference point for a potential long. So if price moves down, I'm looking for a potential long at the top of yesterday's range, and then I'm looking for the print to confirm that. Now I also want to identify several levels of opportunity, because in that example, the top of yesterday's range is just one. And so let's say I get into a trade, it shows me I got a quick finish to the auction to the downside. The prints show me that there's weakness at the bid, strength coming back at the offer at the top of yesterday's range. Perfect setup for a long trade. I go long. and all of a sudden sellers start stepping back in and they push price lower, I either take my trade off or I get stopped out and it starts coming down. This is why we build a trade plan, because if we don't have that second level of opportunity, if you're not prepared for that, then what's going to happen psychologically is you're going to take that loss and it's going to affect you into your next trade, as opposed to saying, okay, well, if it came through yesterday's high, I need to understand if it's going to start accepting price back down into yesterday's range, or is it just going to test back down into yesterday's range? And we're going to talk a little bit about how to determine the difference between a test and an actual move and acceptance. So you can start identifying your next trade, and your psychology isn't down for the day. It's, okay, this is more information. It looked like sellers were hesitating, but they just got aggressive again. So I want to see if they're going to get aggressive, and I'm going to look at the print on the offer side. Are buyers stepping aside? All right, well, if buyers are stepping aside, it tells me instinctively that they're looking for a better price. Right? People get in to make money. So if they relent, I can see it in the print. I got, blue that shows me weakness in the print at the offer through a key level. It tells me that they gave up, at least for now. And if they gave up, I'm going to look for a place that makes the most sense where they might step in. And early in the morning, I'm using pre-market information, and I'm using yesterday's information as well. Where did buyers step in yesterday? That might be closing swing low, might be closing swing high, might be some other key reference point, like a longer term low volume area, such as that. But what it does is it keeps me in the game. If I take a loss because I had good information and that information changed, I'm okay with that, because that's just additional information for me to take another trade. So again, this is where you would identify targets using high volume areas, closing swing, etc. Again, as you start practicing this, and let's take that example, price comes back down into yesterday's range, and you start looking at that and identifying, is this just a test? Is this real thin volume? If price is coming down into yesterday's range, can I see that the buyers are really stepping aside? Do I see weakness in the offer as price is moving into yesterday's range? If that's the case, then this is likely a test, at least for now. I won't know that it's a real move until buyers step in. And where would they most likely step in? That's my next long trade. Or now that price is down into yesterday's range, and I can see that buyers are relenting. They're probably going to look for another spot to get in where they see value, and there's my spot. Maybe I have a short opportunity off of yesterday's high, especially if that has now left a low volume area for the morning. I might have a short opportunity back down towards that area where I'm looking for buyers to step in. Yeah, I'm waiting to see what kind of reaction. For today, I'm waiting to see what kind of reaction we get at that 2450. We had a move above it and then a very quick move down back below it. And let me bring up a volume profile here. Boy, my system is slow. I really apologize for that. I just don't know why today it's acting so slow. All right, let me bring this over. All right, here's our volume profile for the day. We have our high from yesterday at 2350. which is right there. Just going to put a... Personally, I mark my highs and lows of the day with yellow. I highly recommend that you get some colors that mean something, whether it's for example, my open swing high, open swing low is in the dark orange. My closing swing high and closing swing low is in the dark orchid. Those colors have meaning to me, and yellow is my previous high and low of day. So as we look at this auction, we had a move to the upside, which came down relatively quick. I just cannot believe how slow this is. We're getting some acceptance here. I don't know if I'll be able to do this. We're getting some acceptance here with a current low volume area right here about 21 quarter. 21 quarter. The auction is moving lower. We're getting acceptance into the day. It looks like this is not finishing to the downside. So I would start looking at this swing. Swing high, swing low. I can see here we had buyers, and I don't necessarily call this support. What I call this is where buyers have enough conviction that they're going to hold the sellers. Remember, price will move in a specific direction till the other side steps in to shut that movement off. Yesterday, this is where buyers had that conviction, and the other important aspect is this is where sellers showed weakness. They relented. So as price is moving down, if this shows as unfinished, and I believe we're approaching, let me just take a look here. Yeah, I want you to see this here. If I can get my chart to come over. We have a low volume area right here around 17 quarter. You can see that. Right here. Well, I really apologize for how slow my system is acting. Right there. So here's what I'm looking at now as a potential trade. If price comes down here and we get rejection, sellers really can't get through this level. They may take it down a couple more ticks, but if we get responsive buying and we get back above 17 and we start building volume above 17, today's profile shows volume starting to build above 17. Remember, right now the 17 on a longer term time frame is considered an unfair low. If price is going to reject off of this area, and it just hit settlement or close from yesterday, looks like. If price is going to bounce off of this area, maybe not, hang on. And it's going to move higher. No, it didn't, not yet. Then where's my expectation of a target? It's right here, right? Because right now, in this price zone, this 31, looks like about 31, 30, 31, and this 17, this is an unfair high, and this is an unfair low. This is a high volume area. High volumes areas do what? Typically, as long as this remains an unfair low, you can expect this to be a magnet for price. You can expect price to go up and challenge this. If this breaks and we start seeing price get acceptance in the profile below 17, so it doesn't just come down below 17, but it actually starts making progress and starts building out a distribution, right? We start seeing volume in the volume profile. Then I may actually look for a short off of this area. And if in the intraday volume profile, there's a low volume area right here, this is what I talk about with confluence. Now I have additional confluence, so if price retests up to this level, and in the print there's weakness at the offer and strength coming back in the bid, I'm going short. However, as price starts to come down, this is the other if then, and the volume profile shows a finish, nice tapered finish to the downside, I see weakness at the bid, strength coming back in the offer, I'm going to go long. And I'm going to go long, and I'm going to watch the print, and I'm going to look to try to take my first target. I'll see what the print tells me, but right out in front of that high volume area with a potential test to this 30-31 area. And if we get volume through this 30-31 area, I'm expecting to see it at least a tag of that high volume area. And what will start occurring for me on a little bit larger time frame is we had swing high, swing low, swing high, low. I'm marking these swings. What this current context of this market is doing right now, it's balancing down here. There's a swing low. So I'm looking at a swing high. Get rid of these now. So I'm looking at a swing high. Swing low, high, low, high, low. I'm looking for a potential swing high to here and here. If that doesn't happen, and this is where the understanding the elements and the attributes of the volume profile really help. If price can't get today through this level, around this 24.75.25, again, then and comes back down through here, if this is a swing high, then I'm looking for a new low. Because if buyers can't have the conviction to get this through this level, then the probability is when it comes down, this level is at risk. And if it comes through there, I want to take a short, especially if in the day time frame volume profile, I see a low volume area that lines up with this, and I get the confirmation in the print that the bid is weak, the offer is weakening, bid is strengthening, I'm short. But before that scenario happens, my first scenario is for a test to this level and a potential long. And if I take this trade, I'm looking to exit in front of this high volume area. And if price starts coming through this high volume area, in the day time frame, in today's volume profile, what I'm expecting is to see distribution. I'm going to start expecting to see price rotate a little bit through here. That rotation and this further distribution around 25, 26, if we get it, is going to tell me that we're getting acceptance. So if price rejected here, this is an unfair low for our market today, and we start getting what I expect would be acceptance up here, then what is this market most likely to do today? Go up, exactly. And where would I look for at least a test to? Next LVA, exactly. Next LVA right there. At least a test there. Exactly. A couple questions here. Your system's not really slow. My mind is working at that speed now. I'm going to, looks like everybody's here. I'm going to get rid of that message. I can go through the colors that I use for my different lines, absolutely. When I refer to weakness at the bid and strength at the offer at a key level, am I assessing the final print in the last 3 bid-ask prints? I'm assessing the final one below it. Remember, as I get into that trade, I'm watching the 2 combinations of bid and ask above that or below that as well. But I'm assessing the final print. So what that looks like, come on. Wow, I just have not had my system work like this in a long time. So what I'm looking at is that combination in that bar. This combination up here. And I need to get to where we're at. So this combination down here, this combination, I'm looking at that last one. But I'm watching 2 above it or 2 below it. If I'm short, I'm watching 2 below it. If I'm long, watching 2 above it. Don't see how I can say it's most likely to go up. Equal probability of rotation sideways, isn't it? Here, well, the probability, I think in any trade you could say is 50-50. You just don't know. But I need to base my targets and my stops on something that I believe is truth. Otherwise, I'm moving my stops all over the place. So what I'm not saying is that price is going to go up. What I am saying in this is if, and I can say this because I've done this over time, but if this level proves to be an unfair low and the intraday volume profile starts showing acceptance at this level, then the probability, the higher probability, is that this market's going to test up here. Does it mean it's going to? No. But the higher probability is that it's going to test up here because buyers have stepped in, sellers have said not a fair price. This would be the first most likely fair price for sellers where we might start to see sellers engage, which would create the rotation here. And if sellers don't continue to step in here and counter the move by the buyers, and we get acceptance higher, it most likely would result in a test to the upside. Yes, because that's exactly right, because it rejected the lower boundary. And that's where the if then, it's a great clarification, Peter. So that's where the other if then, right? I'm always saying if then. If this is not, or if this is unfair low, and if sellers aren't willing to commit through market orders the volume necessary to take price lower, then again I go back to my basic understanding of market participants, which is they get in to a position to make money. If sellers right now in this market context are saying, we can't make any money here because they're not showing the conviction to take price through this unfair low, if that's the case, then I expect the first place that they may show that is up here. Doesn't mean that, but the first place I would expect that is up here. And if they show that and buyers take price higher and we start to get this rotation, it results in acceptance today of this is fair price, so again, I'm in this range. If today's market shows acceptance in this area, it doesn't have to be right on it, but in this area, that this is fair price, given the fact unless sellers really re-engage, and that would be shown by them holding this level, not having price rotate through it like this. If sellers hold this level and price comes back down, then there's higher risk to this holding the second time down. I may not be as anxious to take a long off of this area. And my if then is I'm going to watch the print. I may take a trade long still down here. And if I do that and I see any strength coming back in at the bid, I'm out of the trade. I'm out of the trade. I'm going to wait to see if we get a stop run and it pops back above, or if it continues to get acceptance lower. Because if sellers do hold this line and they push it back down and through this unfair high or low, and we start getting acceptance down below that line, I think I see what somebody was asking me. Somebody was asking me, I think, about this high, that should be up here. But if that's the case, and this gets kind of close here. We're at 15.25 to 17 quarter. That's 2 points. So I want to be careful. This is a scenario where, if price comes down to 15.25 before it tests back up to 17 quarter, if I take a short, I'm going to be really tight with my stops. And this is a trade that I would scale early on. Because if buyers hold down here and break back up through here, then they could take it all the way back up. So what I'm watching for is I'm using the overall market context, and these would be potential trade levels for me in a trading plan. And then I'm watching, let me hang on a second. I got to fix my volume profile. Be right with you.